Imagine your usual Sunday routine. You climb the stairs, pour your coffee, glance in the mirror, and a few tiny things feel off. A little more time in the bathroom at night. A thirst that doesn't quite go away. Vision that blurs for a minute after lunch and then clears. None of this feels dramatic enough to call the doctor, but for many adults over 50, these everyday clues can point to rising blood sugar, and catching them early can change the next decade of your health. Today, you'll hear 7 subtle, evidence-based signs you can notice at home and a simple plan to take to your clinician. According to major public health groups, recognizing these symptoms and getting tested early can help prevent complications and preserve quality of life. Everything here is explained in plain language and grounded in real research. This is educational content. It does not replace a visit with your healthcare professional. Let's start with the everyday clues you're most likely to notice without any special tests. You wake more than usual at night to urinate, even when you didn't drink extra fluids. That pattern can happen when excess glucose pulls water with it into the urine. People often blame this on getting older, evening tea, or a slightly colder bedroom, but if the pattern is new or clearly worsening, it's worth tracking. Public health guidance lists frequent urination, often at night, among the classic symptoms that should trigger a diabetes check. The practical move. Put a small notepad by your bed, jot the times for 7 nights, and also note whether you cut fluids 2 hours before bedtime. If you're up repeatedly, ask your clinician about a fasting glucose, an A1C, or an oral glucose tolerance test. The CDC and the American Diabetes Association both highlight frequent urination and excessive thirst as common early signs in adults, especially over 45 with added risk factors. A common mistake is assuming this is just a prostate issue in men or simply menopause-related sleep disruption in women. Those can play a role, but the pattern deserves a glucose check all the same. Speaking of thirst, there's the dry mouth that lingers through the day. This isn't the normal thirst after a walk or a salty meal. It's the kind where you keep your water bottle nearby and still feel a step behind on hydration. In simple terms, when blood sugar is high, your kidneys work overtime, you lose fluid, and your body asks for more. Clinical sources like the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases explain this osmotic diuresis as a hallmark mechanism behind both thirst and frequent urination. What to do at home. Note when the thirst is strongest, morning, mid-afternoon, or after dinner, and what you've eaten in the previous hour. If a sweetened drink or refined carb lunch seems to precede the thirst, that pattern is meaningful. A common mistake is trying to fix the thirst with sports drinks or juices. For many people, that makes the cycle worse. A good experiment is 7 days of replacing sugary beverages with water or unsweetened tea and seeing whether the thirst plus nighttime urination duo softens. Now, if you've ever had your vision go fuzzy for a short while, blurry vision that comes and goes, especially after meals, can be another quiet clue. The science is surprisingly simple. When glucose rises quickly, fluid shifts in and out of the lens of the eye, changing how it focuses. Ophthalmology explanations cited by groups like Harvard Health and Mayo Clinic describe this as a reversible, early effect, different from long-term damage. What you can do at home is note the timing. Does the blur appear 30 to 90 minutes after eating, then clear? Is it more likely after pasta, white bread, or sweets compared with a meal rich in vegetables and protein? If the pattern is consistent, that's information for your clinician. A common mistake is blaming all blur on screen time or dry eyes alone. Those are real issues, but if the blur clusters after meals, it's reasonable to check blood sugar. Also, if you already wear glasses and your prescription suddenly feels off after certain meals, that timing detail matters. Small cuts or foot sores that take longer to heal are another at-home clue. When glucose stays elevated, circulation and immune function can be affected, which may slow healing. Wound care guidance from clinical organizations like the Cleveland Clinic emphasizes foot checks, especially for adults over 50, because the feet can reveal subtle problems early. What to do? After showering, take 30 seconds to look at heels, between toes, and along the sides of your feet. If a tiny nick from gardening or a new blister hangs around longer than expected, take a photo on day 1 and again on day 7 under similar lighting. If there's little improvement, or if redness spreads, warmth increases, or you spot drainage, call your clinician promptly. A common mistake is covering the same bandage for days without changing it. Clean, dry, and protect the area and keep pressure off. And while we're at the feet, tingling, burning, or numbness in the toes or fingers, especially at night, can signal early nerve irritation. Diabetes-related nerve changes often begin in the longest nerves first, which is why the toes notice it before the hands. Neurology overviews from the NIDDK and Cleveland Clinic note that early nerve symptoms can be intermittent, a pins and needles sensation when you finally get off your feet, a mild burning that wakes you at 3 a.m., or a numb patch under the big toe that wasn't there last month. What to do at home? Make a simple map by wiggling all 10 toes for 5 seconds each morning and rating sensation from 0 to 10. If certain toes consistently feel duller, record it for a week. A common mistake is chalking this up entirely to shoes or a long car ride. Footwear matters, but a pattern that repeats should prompt a glucose conversation. And if you're wondering about energy, unexplained fatigue, especially after meals, can be a softer sign that blood sugar isn't behaving. Here's an easy metaphor. Think of energy like a key that needs to fit the lock. If insulin isn't doing its job well, glucose doesn't move efficiently into cells, and you feel drained. Reviews in journals like Diabetes Care and public-facing summaries from the ADA describe post-meal sleepiness and sluggishness as frequent complaints that improve when glucose is back in range. A home experiment. For 1 week, note what you ate at the 3 meals before your most tired times. If a plate heavy in refined starch leaves you yawning 45 minutes later, try walking 10 to 15 minutes after similar meals and see if the crash eases. Studies show that short, easy walks can help the body use glucose more effectively in the hours after eating. A common mistake is assuming the solution is more coffee. Caffeine can mask the signal without fixing the underlying pattern. A 7th sign is something you might literally see in the mirror: a velvety darkening in the folds of the skin, on the back of the neck, in the armpits, or around the groin, known as acanthosis nigricans. Dermatology sources from Mayo Clinic and NIH describe this as a physical clue linked to insulin resistance. It doesn't hurt or itch in many people. It just looks like a patch that won't scrub off. What to do at home? Take a clear photo in good light today, then another in a week. If you notice progressive darkening or thickening, make a note and bring it to your clinician. A common mistake is treating it like dirt or a tanning line. Over-scrubbing can irritate the skin without addressing the cause. Because these signs overlap with other conditions, context matters. Frequent urination and thirst can also be linked to certain medications, prostate enlargement, or diuretics. Blurry vision has many causes unrelated to glucose. Foot sores can come from shoes, and tingling can follow a back issue. That's exactly why a short, organized log is powerful. Primary care and endocrine teams often say the quickest path to clarity is a simple story. What you noticed, when it shows up, what you ate or did before it, and how long it lasts. As a rule of thumb echoed by organizations like the ADA and CDC, adults over 45 or younger with risk factors such as family history, higher body weight, or a history of gestational diabetes benefit from periodic screening even if they feel well. If you're over 50, a yearly conversation about glucose is a smart baseline, and sooner if any of these signs cluster together. Let's turn this into a simple, doable plan for the next 7 days. First, record what, when, and how long. Choose 2 or 3 clues that spoke to you: nighttime bathroom trips, afternoon thirst, post-meal blur, evening tingling, And keep a minimalist diary. You don't need a special app. A sheet on the fridge or a small notebook works. Note the clock time and one sentence about what happened. Second, adjust one habit today. The two most impactful changes for many people are swapping a sugary beverage for water or unsweetened tea and taking a relaxed 10 to 15-minute walk after your main meals. Research referenced by public health groups suggests these small steps can improve post-meal glucose in the very window when you feel those symptoms. Third, bring your notes to your clinician or pharmacist. Ask whether an A1C, a fasting glucose, or a glucose tolerance test is appropriate for you, and discuss your medications if you're already on treatment. Never change or stop meds on your own. Let's do a rapid recap you can replay in your head this week. Notice if you're up more than usual at night to urinate, especially without extra evening fluids. Pay attention to a thirst and dry mouth that seem out of proportion to your day. Watch for transient blur after meals that clears again later. Check whether tiny cuts and foot blisters take longer than expected to resolve. Map tingling, burning, or numbness in toes or fingers, especially at night. Track unexplained fatigue after refined carb-heavy meals and whether a short walk helps. And look for a velvety darkening on the back of the neck or in the armpits that doesn't wash off. Spotting one clue once isn't a diagnosis. Patterns over a week are what matter. Seeing those patterns early, talking with your clinician, and making small daily adjustments may add steady, healthy years with the people you love. If any of these signs sounded familiar, tell me in the comments which one you've seen and for how long. Share this with a friend or family member over 50 who could benefit from an easy, at-home checklist. And if you want more evidence-based health videos tailored for midlife and beyond, subscribe and tap the notification so you don't miss the next Sunday episode. A final ethical reminder before we close. Information guides decisions, but it's not a diagnosis. Do not stop or change medications on your own. Discuss your notes and questions with your healthcare professional who can interpret your symptoms in context, order the right tests, and help you build a safe plan.